Hi, I'm Susie Sell. I'm a journalist for Planning Magazine. I'm here with Phil Graham at the National Planning Summit in London. He's going to tell us a bit about the National Infrastructure Commission work so far and the next steps. Phil, I wonder if you could start by talking through your reports and just letting me know the key recommendations that you think planners really need to sit up and take notice of.
We've published 3 reports over the last couple of months. One on London's transport infrastructure and the long-term needs, which came out very strongly in favour of Crossrail 2. One on northern transport that looked in particular at the case for improving the line between Manchester and Leeds, and a third one on generating additional flexibility within the energy system. I think the really important things for planners coming out of those reports are, on the London report in particular, we stressed very strongly the need to think about Crossrail 2 as a housing project as well as a transport project. And unless you have a coherent strategy that brings both of those factors together, the project won't deliver the benefits that are expected of it. I think the other things that we found were, this applies I think to planning policy as much as to funding policy, the need to get the split between local benefits and national benefits, local costs and national costs right, and the need to think, particularly as we found in the north, coherently about how short-term projects will help you to achieve your long-term aims and how they fit into that broader long-term strategy. So I think those are the key things that we'd say you need to take away, that planners might take away from our reports. But as time goes forward, we very much hope those reports will become government policy and will feed into the planning system, and the projects that we've recommended will be being taken forward.
Right, and you mentioned there that it's your hope that Crossrail will be a housing project as well as a transport project.
Yeah.
Does the Mayor of London currently have the powers to make sure that that happens?
I don't think any individual has the powers to make sure that happens. I think it has to be about partnership working, but I do think the Mayor of London has some very significant levers he can pull to get that partnership working, operating effectively, and to lay the ground for it. There's a lot that can be done in terms of policy around housing density, in terms of policy around the use of strategic industrial land. But I think also there's a lot that the Mayor of London can do because he's a high-profile figure. He has this broad coalition of areas that he covers to bring people together and to work out what the right institutions, what the right governance and what the right policy is to generate the consensus that's needed to deliver the 200,000 homes that Crossrail 2 could unlock. So I think it needs to be a partnership, but I think the Mayor of London is absolutely crucial to that partnership.
Okay, and so the government's responded to your reports.
Yeah.
Can you just talk me through the next step and how this is all going to filter down and when it's going to start affecting planners on the ground?
The government has responded to our reports and has endorsed our recommendations. It's made funding available for the further development of Crossrail 2 with a view to getting a hybrid bill into the House of Commons by the end of this Parliament. So very quickly, we hope, the Crossrail 2 scheme is going to be developed into more detail, will be consulted upon, and will start to go through that planning process through the hybrid bill. The key thing, as I said before, is to get the housing element of that right, so you don't just deliver a train line to nowhere, you deliver a train line that's supporting the development of new communities and helping to meet London's housing needs. In the north, again, funding has been made available for the further development of the line between Manchester and Leeds, both an initial project to be delivered by 2022 within the boundary of the current railway, and a longer-term project that brings in improvements to Manchester Piccadilly Station, includes the links to HS2, and those are projects that are going to need to be taken forward quickly. We're going to need to think about the detailed design, we're going to need to think about how that can be taken forward the planning system. I don't think there's any time to lose in terms of making these happen.
And then just finally, your next report, which is looking at the growth corridor between Oxford, Milton Keynes and Cambridge.
Yes.
Can you just talk me through how that's going to progress?
We've been asked to take that forward over the next 18 months. We will be producing an interim report in the first instance, which I would expect to be sometime around the end of this calendar year, which will be looking at the characteristics of that corridor, the factors that have made it a success in terms of growth, and the risks to that growth and what might hold that back, so we can understand the areas where infrastructure provision can unlock that and can ensure that growth continues and to support the continuing success of the fast-growing cities in that corridor, and ensure that success is spread out to some of the perhaps the less affluent areas close by. Having identified the need through that interim report, we expect to produce a final report in the autumn of 2017, which sets out a clear set of recommendations for how those infrastructure needs can be met, and then how the transport connectivity, the digital connectivity, the housing growth that's needed in that corridor to make it continue to function successfully can be delivered as efficiently and as fairly as possible.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Phil. That
No
was
problem.
Great.
Thank you for having me.